We want to dedicate this video to the lives lost due to police brutality. We're going to say their names. Trayvon Martin, Alton Sterling, Tatiana Jefferson, Botham Jean, Deborah Danner, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, Brendan Glenn, Sandra Bland, Pamela Turner, Samuel Dubois, Corinne Gaines, Freddie Gray, Philando Castile, Terrence Crutcher, Eric Gardner. I'm halfway. And this is just one thing. Antoine Scott, Terrence Coleman, David Joseph, Alfred Olonga, Walter Scott, William Chapman II, Jeremy McDowell, Michelle Shirley, Tamir Rice, Kennedy Watkins, Riddell Jones, Alonzo Smith, Akai Gurley, Lamar Clark, Freddie Blue, and Azelle Ford. Disclaimer, this is a very short list of a long, did I say long? List of people who have been affected by police brutality. Say their names, say it loud. We support you and stand with you.
Now let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Anna.
I'm Becca.
And I'm Cassidy.
And we're the Try Hard Girls.
Whoop whoop. Hey everyone, we missed ya.
We are so glad to be back. It has been a long time and we definitely have missed you guys. Cassidy, Anna, and I have talked about it. We just miss, honestly, just talking to each other even.
Not through Zoom.
Yeah, not through Zoom, but it feels good to be back with another review. So Anna, tell us about it.
So this week's movie is one of my movies. So a couple weeks ago, and let's be real, it was been over a month, you guys voted on a poll between the Central Park 5 documentary and the movie 13th on Netflix, and 13th won. So we watched it. I mean, some of us a month ago, some of us 2 weeks ago, and by 2 weeks ago it was me because I like to procrastinate. And so yeah, we are going to be reviewing it because I know a lot of you guys are back to your normal lives on Instagram. I mean, the black square is not enough. This is not a moment. This is a movement. So we're going to continue to educate ourselves. This movie really touched my heart. I'm sure it touched you guys a lot too. So let's just get started.
Disclaimer, it is definitely a movie where you're going to be crying because I definitely cried.
Yes, the Kleenex were ready. I was crying right away.
Honestly, it wasn't even that it was stuff I didn't know. It's just when it's all laid out and there's numbers attached to it and people and pictures, it just makes it so much more intense, like emotion-wise. And I think it's my fault, it's your fault, it's everyone's fault for knowing these things and continuing to just let it be okay. Not that we're letting, well, we are. I mean, like, compliance, right? I mean, it's crazy to think that a lot of this I learned in college, like school to prison pipeline, which we'll be talking about. And I did the research on it and I did a project on it, and that's it, you know?
You move on.
Like, yeah, and this is not something to move on from. This is huge. And I think this movie just this doc lit a fuse under me.
Honestly, I actually learned a lot of things that I had not known before, like that I was never taught in my history class. So I was actually shocked by a lot of the things that, you know, were being discussed on screen. And the power of this documentary is in the statistics. Like, if you don't believe that this shit is real, we'll watch the movie and you'll understand why it is real and how there are actual numbers and data to back it up.
It's insane that people don't believe this is real. Like, it's literally the same people that don't believe the Holocaust is real. Like, there's something seriously wrong with you if you don't believe this happened. But it's kind of back to what you were saying, Cassidy. Like, our history books are completely whitewashed. We are taught to idolize people that should not be idolized, and then people that are actually the heroes or really did suffer, like, are totally just erased.
Well, as Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Well, speaking of history, I think that that's a good transition because the way the movie starts is in, you know, some chronological order. So I figured that we could talk about it today and first start off with the history of the prison system and what this movie started with, including an important statistic that Bex wrote down.
Yeah, so I wrote this down because is alarming to me because we're talking about the entire world. So what I wrote down was the United States holds only 5% of the world's population, but we hold 25% of the world's prison population. And that is a huge difference. That is crazy. We hold a quarter of the entire world's prison population.
Insane.
Just the United States, not North America, not America, but the United States. And that was, wow, so shocking and disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, you literally said it. I'm speechless.
Yeah, and they really got started with announcing the numbers, which were awful. And how, you know, in history, there was the Emancipation Proclamation and how the slaves were just magically freed. And in history books that we were taught, they were freed and everything was just bright and joy and happy and smiles everywhere. But that was not the case, people. Actually, many slaves who were finally freed and had nowhere to go, nowhere to live, no way to make money. And I mean, that history lesson in this documentary was crazy because I personally never really thought about that and how really they weren't really free. They were actually put into a situation that, you know, killed a lot of people and actually put a lot of people back into prison. So
and a lot of their the slave owners didn't even actually tell them that they were, quote, free, because it wasn't, you know, something they wanted to tell them, which is just like, come on, people. And
Well,
then,
and that had to do with like Texas, right? So
Yeah.
Texas being the state it is still in
I
some
was
way.
about to say,
But Texas did not free the slaves. It took until the Union soldiers getting to Texas to tell the slaves, hey, you're free. It like nobody just, the slave owners weren't just like, oh, okay, you guys are all free. Like soldiers had to come and like tell the slaves. It wasn't even like a thing where it's just, oh, you guys are free now. It's people didn't know too.
And they didn't really say this in the documentary, but I'm pretty positive that white people were so hateful who owned slaves that they probably killed some slaves before they were even allowed to be free. Just so that they could take power over them.
100%.
Probably, yeah.
100%. Oh yeah. I wonder if you go to plantations now and like people that still own them, if they like do some like digging up, girl, I'm sure they're gonna find a lot of really sad stuff down there.
Yeah. I think it's important to also note, so not only with we were talking about how the United States has this huge population of prisoners too, but another really big factor into that. So when we talk about the history of slaves becoming free, really what it only did is it shifted in how we use them as, I mean, truthfully, slaves. Just if you think about labor in the prison system. But another huge statistic that I saw is the difference between white men and black men being incarcerated. And the lifetime likelihood for a white man was every 1 in 17. Whereas for a black man, it is 1 in 3. And that is just another huge statistic that, I mean, blows my mind to think about. And I'm sure it was even wider of a gap, you know, back then, because that's where it became we were going to put them all in prisons.
And of course, like even the own laws that people turn to, I mean, the 13th Amendment is full with loopholes. And for people that are black, literally people would target black people and that would have almost all of them go into jail. Pretty much another form of slavery because they put them into labor. I mean, there's those pictures that we saw of children literally doing free labor, and they would get in trouble and put in jail for the silliest things, from jaywalking, literally sitting down on the wrong bench. It's insane. And I mean, to be honest, they're still doing that.
I mean, and you know, back then, once they were freed.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, every time you say free, we should just put a disclaimer. We are doing our little finger quotes.
And I think it also has to do with the way people perceived Black people. I mean, I feel like it is still very much alive in the way that the media portrays them as being thugs and lazy and like, you know, they just take advantage of our system. I mean, Birth of a Nation back then did exactly what, I mean, our own president does now and a lot of media does now. It portrayed people that are Black as evil and bad people. You know, it's insane.
It was awful.
They just accepted it or whatever. Sorry, they just loved it. It got so many awards. Like, come on.
Watching those clips were disgusting. Like, and the one that was based off that true story where it was a Black guy and a white female, and she said that he tried to rape her. And he got.
And she jumped from the rocks.
She jumped from the rocks. Yeah, like that was. She would rather jump off a cliff than be near a Black male. Like
Disgusting.
That was disgusting. And the fact that then it became like this funny comedic skit was even more disgusting. Like the fact that I even have to think about my ancestors, Cassidy's ancestors, Anna's, all of our ancestors. Well, maybe not Anna's, but let's be honest. They were probably slave owners. I mean, at one point they probably were. And then on top of that, fast forward a little bit and they're watching this, it doesn't sit right in my stomach. I'm like, that people really thought that was funny. And
and idolizing the KKK in the movie. I mean, they didn't play the whole Birth of a Nation movie, but they showed significant clips of the KKK people dragging the quote unquote Black man, who was a white man in blackface, out of a situation, hanging him, like different things like that. I mean, and one thing that I learned in this documentary too is that the burning cross was never a symbol of the KKK until that movie, which is insane because to this day, the cross that's burning is a symbol of the KKK, which is, I mean,
doesn't that just go to show how life imitates art and we have to be so specific,
careful,
about what we put out, because even as adults, we're molded by what we watch on the TV, but especially as like young children. I thought about this today, and this is slightly off topic, but not really. But I thought about like all of these shows that I watched growing up that taught me lessons more so than like my parents or school. Like I learned a lot of things from shows. That's how, I learned about birth control, for example, like all these kind of things. And it just, the fact that it still is, but more so back then, was this like funny comedy skit still. Like I said, it so does not sit well.
But here's the thing, Becca, as you say that, there's children still now that have access to the internet more than we ever did as children, and they have access to whatever they want. And that could be good and that can be bad, because if they see these guys making fun of George Floyd getting killed, and they're reenacting like those horrific videos. Like, as an educator, and I'm sure many of you guys can agree, it really comes down how you're brought up at home. If your parents teach you to be kind and respectful to everybody, not just your own kind, I think you kind of have an advantage in life to not be as hateful later on towards everybody.
The media does need to be much more regulated than it is. I mean, kids have access to everything. And I know media companies are trying to do their part. There are certain regulations for child protection clauses and things like that. But I mean, it is pretty damn easy for a child to pick a parent's profile, say their mom or dad's profile instead of their own on Netflix, and look at shit. It's just so easy to gain access to those things.
But the beautiful thing about it being so easy to access things now is that back in the day, and I was going to bring this up too, all those videos and clips of people getting lynched or killed, branded with the KKK symbol, or being literally stalked down the street, or as they enter freaking school just because they're Black. We grew up watching that in history classes, and in the books we used to see the pictures. But now it's so easy for the next generation to see the videos that people are posting about what's going on right now, and it's not that different. people are trying to get lynched. People are literally attacking people and stalking them because of the color of their skin. And sometimes they're not coming out alive.
Will Smith said it best. He said, these hate acts haven't increased. They're just now being filmed. And when he said that, it really like spoke to me. I'm like, wow, like, yes, it's not that all of a sudden this is happening. It's now there is everyone has a phone that can take photo and video now. And we, like you said, social media, right? And so there's definitely some advantages too with the having access to everything.
Dude, yeah. Well, the documentary really highlighted a lot of historical things along with the history of the war on drugs, which I learned a lot about that I had not known before.
Same.
And the whole Ronald Reagan, Republican strategy for the war on drugs of law and order and targeting marijuana with hippies and heroin with Black people and putting Black people in mass amounts into prison.
Yeah. And
the possession of, sorry guys, is that the possession of 1 ounce of crack and then versus 100 ounces of powdered cocaine, which is crack, same sentencing in prison, because Black people would likely have crack over cocaine and white people would likely have cocaine over crack. So white people would get sentenced to less time for more drugs. I just don't understand.
It's insane.
Which brings me to another statistic that kind of went hand in hand with the war on drugs, but also just to this day, is that Black men in this country, right, because we brought them here as slaves, only account for 6.5% of the whole United States population, but they account for 40.2% of the US prison population. That is almost half. That is crazy. There are so many races.
It's insane.
But Black accounts for almost half. Insane.
It's because they're targeted.
That's
100%. The bottom line.
And it started with the war on drug. I mean, it started before that, excuse me. But I think that's where we saw a huge jump.
Huge.
The data I have is it started 1970 with 357, I'm just going to round, 357,000 people incarcerated. This is not Black, white, this is just in general. And then if we look turn of the century at 2000, we're at 2,015,000 people incarcerated. And if we only look 14 more years further to 2014, the number is 2,306,000 incarcerated people.
It's insane.
In the prison system.
That is just insane.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy, Becca, is so in the 70s it was 300,000. By the end of Ronald Reagan's term, which was in 1989, it was basically double. It was almost 800,000.
It was over doubled.
Yeah, which is insane. And that just,
Targeting, baby.
The proof is in the pudding, people. The proof is in the motherfucking pudding and numbers. So if you're trying to tell me that the war on drugs isn't real and targeted Black people to put them in prison during that time,
you need to educate yourself.
Honey.
The Black Panthers are considered a terrorist group, but the KKK isn't.
Yep.
Excuse me?
Way to keep suppressing them.
Okay.
Also, an issue that we have when people are in jail, and I don't know what the statistic is of this for the entire United States, but this comes more from the South, where there tends to be a higher Black population. I think we all know why, but not to say that it was only the South, because that is not true. It's the United States as a whole that is doing disservice to Black people. But it said in there that almost 30% of Black men in Alabama permanently lost their right to vote due to being incarcerated. So I'm thinking about somebody, right? We're talking about war on drugs. So, a Black male who goes into jail maybe for having an ounce of weed on him. That happens, by the way, for life. Still happens, guys. And it's legal in most states. Not most, but in the United States. So just putting that out there as well. Lose their right to vote. They become
Dehumanized.
Like dehumanized. It boggles my mind. Everyone should have a right to vote. Everyone.
Didn't Snoop Dogg also recently say that he's going to vote for the first time in a long time because he didn't know that he can vote, because he was told, because he was in prison, that he couldn't vote anymore, and that was taken away from him.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, so he's voting for the first time in a long time this year because he goes, enough is enough. We do not want Trump again. Like, we need to do our best. And I guess, I mean, I have to educate myself because I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe some things have changed since then, but I think that was something that he was also told. And
I know some people have to, like...
Do they have to reapply or something?
Yeah, they have to reapply to be able to vote or whatever.
I was going to say, so Becca, you mentioned that 40% of the people who are currently in prison are Black people. Well, let's just say there are 2 million people, which is a low compared to how many people are actually in there. But let's just round it at 2 million and say there are 2 million people in there. Let's say 800,000 Black men is 40%. Can't vote right now. That's a huge portion of the population. It's unbelievable.
Once again, kind of stating what we said in the Becoming movie review, we need to show up, people. This is not the time to be silent. You need to show up. If you have the opportunity to vote, go out and vote. It's simple as that. I don't want to hear you complain later on. Come on. The fact that our current president literally is talking about like law and order and like the things he says, now it's kind of like what Reagan was saying in the videos that we saw during the documentary, and I was like, this seems a little bit familiar. You know what I mean?
I think also, if you go back to that statistic that Cassidy just said, if we said 2 million and 800,000 of them can't vote, that just goes to show that disparity too when we think about voting or the people in position of power. We limit the availability for Black people or other people of color to become in these positions of power because we're overpopulating them in our prisons. We are dehumanizing them. We're criminalizing them, and we're taking away their rights, their basic human rights. And we see that, and we know that because if you look at our presidents, how many have been a person of color? 1. Okay, let's look at Congress. Let's look at Senate. I mean, it's crazy.
Why?
Yep.
Well, and I was just going to say it doesn't stop at Ronald Reagan because it's now 1993 and Bill Clinton, who is actually the Democratic Party, not the Republican Party, played a huge role in additional mass incarceration.
Yep.
This is another thing. Like I said, I learned a fuck ton in this documentary. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I did not know during the Clinton-Trump campaign. And I've always thought of Bill Clinton as a good president because I didn't know any better. But he implemented the 3 strikes and you're out law with mandatory minimums for specific crimes. And those specific crimes were crimes that were mostly by Black people.
Same. I mean, I definitely knew he wasn't
perfect.
I mean, no one is. But there were still things in there that I also learned as well, just like you, Cass. And I was shocked and upset. It kind of goes to show, which is a big conversation happening right now, is this whole 2-party system, right? It is Republican or Democrat, which I have a feeling it's changing, but it's still going to take a long time to move from a 2-party system, which I'm not in favor of. I don't necessarily think anyone's necessarily in favor of, right? You just always want the best candidate. So I think back to, I couldn't vote for Bill Clinton, obviously. I could vote for Hillary. Sorry, I did vote for Hillary. But what I mean is thinking about, right, this 2-party system. And here we are in another election year and we're thinking, right, both candidates kind of suck. I mean, right?
Yeah.
100%, 150,000 million bajillion % sucks.
SUCKS sucks.
Period. Also, Biden also kind of sucks. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he wasn't my pick either.
Nope.
But I do have to, while we're all thinking about this, and then I'm just gonna say one little snippet because I have to get it in there because that's just the person I am. We have Kanye, right, who's come out and saying he's gonna run for president. Don't even get me started on that. We're not gonna talk about it. Don't you dare vote for Kanye is all I'm gonna say. Don't do
Educate
it.
yourself.
But we also need to remember, although we are still a two-party system and it is ideal to head to a 3, 4, 5, right, party system, you need to think about it as a bus. Someone put this into great terms for me. Who is going to get you closer to the destination you want? And so when I think to, like, there's give and pull of things, and there's no excuse for bad policy or 3 strikes you're out, no excuse, but you have to constantly think about that, because we are a two-party system right now. It is changing, but if this, I just feel so strongly about it, that this election is so important, you need to think about it in terms of a bus. Who's going to get you there closer? And although I'm not a fan of Biden, he is going to get my vote. He's going to get me there closer. And just to, like, make it a little bit lighter, at least he knows how to read. At least he knows how to speak. At least he has experience in this world. Like, that's all I gotta say off my pedestal.
I literally am gonna get a shirt that says settling for Biden.
So sad. I mean, but you know who was Biden's first pick? Rich people, because rich people rule America. Mic drop. We can move on from this topic or I'll get heated.
No, one quote though from 13th that we need to bring up, because it is so true, is our justice system supports and helps the rich and guilty over the poor and innocent. Think about the amount of money, right? If we're thinking about the protests happening right now, right? You're getting arrested. You have to pay bond to get out for your court date. And if you don't have that money, you're sitting in jail. So I could be standing protesting, hello, a right of mine, get arrested. And if I don't have $2,000 or however much it is, because it varies.
Which is a lot for some people. Even $500 might not seem a lot to you guys or whoever's listening, but it's a lot for some people who are homeless, who don't have support from their families, from anyone.
It's so true. Think about, like, literally, this could even be, if we put race aside, although race is still a huge factor in this, and we could get into that another time. But if you think just of, like, the college cheating scandal, right? who did that support? There was actually an article about a Black mother who was homeless, changed the address to get her son into a better school so he could have a better future, and she's sitting in prison. It was like a 12-year sentence. Lori Loughlin paid millions of dollars, right, to get her two brothers into USC. And she did, 14 days? And honestly, we don't even hear anything about her because, right, there's so much more going on. She took a plea deal, right, for these 14 days. But, COVID's happening. Is she even in jail? Maybe she's off on good behavior. I mean, it's disgusting how broken our justice system is, and how we cater to the rich and guilty, Brock Turner, hello, versus the poor and innocent. Sorry, off my pedestal again.
Can we also just state the fact that not a single U.S. president has ever visited a jail or prison until President Barack Obama did? Like, that is just insane to me, and I had no idea. And I was just like, what?
Shocked.
I was completely shocked. Also, can we talk about the freaking spokesman that they had who literally had no idea? Like, why did
Oh my God.
Like, everything. Yeah, I don't know.
He looked like a freaking little robot. They would ask him questions, and he truly believed that he was in the right and that his organization, ALEC, is in the right. And you know what? I used to like the name Alec, but I don't know if I could ever look at someone named Alec again. And I know that's wrong, but like every time I hear the word Alec, I'm going to think of this now. And it's awful.
It's the same thing with like Donald. I can't look. Your name Donald, stay away from me. Stay away.
Donald
nothing
Duck.
to do with you.
I'm so sorry, Donald Duck, that you had to go through this.
Well, and with Alec, I mean, they brought up another organization called the CCA, who actually are hired by the United States to manage the prison system and are paid to fill beds. Because once beds are filled, they get paid, and their rich white stockholders get more money. Which is insane. They are incentivized to fill beds in the prisons.
That's because we privatized our prisons. The fact that our prisons are for-profit, private, businesses is disgusting. No such thing of restorative justice early on for teens, right? As they get into this pipeline, which we're going to talk about. There's no care about the individual or the human or rehabilitating them. It's all about what's going to make us money, which also I know, Cassie, you wanted to talk about like brands, right, that use prison labor. And
So
that
many.
is one of the ways that they make money in a legal slave way still to this day.
Yeah, so the CCA supports ALEC, and I know we didn't really explain what ALEC was, but basically ALEC is a political organization that drafts legislation for mostly the Republican Party, but just white people in general. Let's just make that clear. And most of these laws are
They cater to the white, rich male.
Yeah, so the CCA supports ALEC, along with Victoria's Secret, and a lot of other companies who, you know, were at one point being shown to the public that they were supporting ALEC when ALEC started getting a bad reputation, and they would slowly back out, but that doesn't mean that they don't still support them. They are just not publicly supporting them. So people need to pay attention to where they're buying their goods, their food, and all this shit.
Where your money goes. I think that's also why it's important to hashtag buy local.
Yes, and I'm just going to say, and I'm sorry, I'm going to sound so stupid, but I'm really happy that my Tatas got big and I don't like shop at Victoria's Secret anymore because like I don't fit there anymore. So like, thanks. I don't have to go there.
Anyway.
Blessed and humbled.
I shop at Target.
Girl, right?
Also,
I mean, hello.
like, first of all, Victoria's Secret bras, they're not even comfortable. They're like
No.
way overpriced for what you get. And yeah, they are not inclusive at all.
And Victoria's Secret, honey, it ain't no secret no more. If you weren't canceled for body shaming, you sure as are for exploiting the prison system.
Yes.
Yes. Also, can we talk about the fact that the Central Park Five were actually kind of brought up in this documentary, and the fact that Donald tried his like hardest trying to get them the death penalty? I'm like not shocked at all.
Even after they were exonerated, he said that they should still be killed. Disgusting, vile human.
Yeah, and I kind of just rolled my eyes. I'm like, why am I not surprised? You literally had a 2-page spread on the New York Times trying to make sure they got the death penalty. Like, come on.
He's like one of those guys in the big trucks that revs his truck behind like a small Toyota. And it's like,
you got a small pee-pee. Which we all know it looks like a little tiny mushroom. Hashtag thanks Stormy Daniels.
Oh my
and
God.
He probably, okay, this is gross, but he probably has pubic hair that looks like his normal hair, and it's just like covering his entire little penis.
We are giving you guys such a good visual right now, and like I'm also really sorry, but like also not you're welcome.
This kind of reminds me of when they were, remember that episode of the Jeffrey documentary on Netflix where they're explaining how one of the victims talks about his penis and he just gets so mad because she's like talking crap about it. She's like, it's like a mushroom or something, right? I forgot.
Oh my God. I haven't finished it yet, but fuck Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't kill himself, people, by the way.
No, he did not. And I'm just waiting and hoping that someone else doesn't quote kill herself, apparently.
Or get COVID and oops, died from complications.
Yeah, come on now. I also am really happy that they brought like, you know, a lot of the people that we lost due to being targeted to their skin color, like Trayvon, and I'm just gonna say like George Zimmerman should not be free right now. It is insane. A lot of people should be in jail that are not for killing innocent people. Yeah. Also, before we continue, I did want to say I was really happy that they included immigration into this documentary and how you see the detention centers. And I mean, it was only a little bit, but it still meant a lot to see that on there. I personally have not been affected by it, but I know people that have, and it is just insane. There's children in cages right now, people. Like, you need to be worried. You need to be like doing research because there's a lot of fucked up shit going behind those walls. Kids are being fucking treated like horribly. There's kids that are missing. People are dying. Like, this is insane.
Kids who might be fucking sold on Wayfair.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all have listened to that or read up on that, but it is a conspiracy theory that seems pretty fucking legit. So if you have not looked that up, I encourage you to go on Google. Well, I mean, there is so much that was discussed during this documentary, and I think the ending was super powerful because it talked a lot about voting. And I know we've talked a little bit about voting throughout this conversation, but I just wanted to kind of end the discussion with the fact that, like Becca said before, 30% of Black men in Alabama have lost the right to vote because of a felony, and 40% of Black men in the prison population right now don't get to vote. Please, if you have the ability to vote, please go out and register. Primaries have already happened in some states. Some are coming up. Make sure to register to vote so you get on that ballot so that you can use your voice to do more good in the world, because we need a lot more good in the world and good people to vote for the right things.
And it's not just about the president, you guys, but it starts in your hometown with the city officials, the city council, your mayor, your police chief in your county, the people in charge of your education. That is very important. All of those representatives are what will drive our policies and change up at the White House. Vote, 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 vote. So important. In this description, we are going to put a link for you to find where to register to vote.
And if you're too young to vote, ask your parents, your brothers, your cousins, and uncles. Ask your friends. Someone out there can vote.
And if you're young and you still can't vote, but you still want to make a change, and you support certain people in your local community who are running, make sure to support them. Promote them on your Instagram. Go out and volunteer with your parents or your older sister, or if you can by yourself, do that. I mean, any little thing helps, and everyone can always do their part. And thank you for being a young supporter.
I do want to say I really liked the way this documentary was filmed and edited. I think they did a really good job. It was very powerful. I know we talked about maybe not giving it a rate because I feel like we all agree like this is a 10 out of 10. And I guess the Rotten Tomato and all the rating formats agree.
They agree.
And so really do yourself a favor. Even if you're opposed to all this, like just watch it. And I don't know, it doesn't hurt to watch,
Educate yourself. We are going to continue to educate ourselves. We want to bring back our fun energy and videos and podcasts. But again, like Anna mentioned in the beginning, this is not a moment. It is a movement. And we are going to continue to have these, what people would maybe consider tough conversations.
So make sure to follow us on our Instagram at the Try Hard Girls, because Cassidy will be choosing the next 2 movies. We've decided we will be continuing to support BLM and all Black creators by picking 2 movies that are made by either Black writers or have Black actors in it, etc. So watch out, follow us, and please take part of the poll.
Yeah, and make sure to follow us at all of our personal accounts at Cass Kardash,
At McFarbeck,
at A Caroline 19.
We continue to post things and, continue to educate ourselves and share things on this movement that we think others need to see. So hopefully you guys give us a follow and you can, go with us on this educational journey and movement.
And on top of that, make sure you also follow us on the Twitter, on the Tickety Talk, on Spotify, Apple, Anchor. Thank you, Anchor. Podcast, and the YouTube, and on YouTube, because we are here to stay and we are going to be bringing you guys content. So make sure that you follow us everywhere at the Try Hard Girls. And if you're listening to us right now on Spotify or Apple or anywhere you're listening to your podcast, I'm going to go ahead and shamelessly ask that you give us a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.
Pretty please with a sugar on top and a cherry.
And with that, the tryhards are
out.